another opportunity for the rest of your life to love these people in such a focused way, to be with. These text messages from folks saying like, sorry, Father, I know you're very busy right now, but, and just like the practical day by day, I'm not terribly busy. I mean, we still have some sacraments that we're celebrating, yes, but, and so I experienced the same sort of kind of uneasiness, I think, that many are experiencing above all else, that Lord willing, please soon, you may be able to soon receive. By clarifying what is your meaning, what is your purpose right now? How has it changed right now? God bless you. Thanks.
Thanks, Father. We're going to take some time now to do an Father a question right now. Go ahead.
Any questions? So as we're waiting for questions, at 4 a.m. this morning, I woke up. I had a really sore throat. Thanks be to God, Jace probably made his little son get on his knees and pray. I'm just quiet the whole time, and we could get Father Alex Kroll to come over here. And I was like, what if he blow dries it? That's what I found out today.
Father, what's the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning?
First thing I do? Well, very first thing I do is I try to pray. But sometimes I don't. Sometimes I hit the alarm button, brew a cup of tea or coffee, and then go pray my breviary. Every now, like the days that are not good, this is what you should not do, is pick up your phone and let it control you for the first hour of your life. You should leave your phone aside, which I'm guilty of sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I got 4 text messages, one at 2 a.m. So.
Does anyone have a question?
Start typing in all caps. Does anyone have questions?
Are y'all there, or did you just tune in and leave your cameras? leave your computers.
What's the most untalked about thing, like, if you were to say what is one of the weirdest things about being a priest that people don't think to ask, what would you say?
One of the weirdest things about being a priest. Probably, like, I enjoy it. It's kind of fun, but for those of us who've grown up Catholic or familiar with priests, then we kind of just take the collar for granted, like, oh, it's a priest. But when you wear the collar out in public, you get a whole wide range of looks from people. My favorite one, I call it the "they do exist" look. You know that peanut M&M's commercial where Santa walks around the corner and they're like, "He does exist," and he's like, "They do exist." The same look that comes on people's faces when they see a priest in a collar. So yeah, that's kind of weird.
So we're still waiting on the questions to pour in right now. Connor's writing a nice little dealie there to say, does anyone have any questions? Again, I'll throw one more at you.
Yeah, and if we don't got questions, it's cool.
Yeah. Let's. What is, outside of being a priest? What is a leisure activity that gives you the most joy, and why? And how did you come upon that?
The most joy? Well.
Oh, we have a question.
I like to draw. I've been drawing since I was a kid. I was probably about 4 years old when I started drawing, and mostly like graphite or charcoal or something like that, and found it very life-giving. It's something I don't do enough. Every time I finish something, I'm like, why didn't I do that like months ago? But yeah, it's a very life-giving experience.
What has it been like not having Mass on Sunday? Or at least not having anyone at Mass on Sunday?
That's very weird. I'm really glad that we have a few tech people at St. Francis, St. Greg's to help us. That way I can, when I'm preaching, just much like you guys right now, so that there's actually a human presence that I'm speaking to. And and while I recognize there's a lot of people here with us over the video feed, it's just like it's that tube that I'm staring down. It's like it's very inhuman. So it's been odd, very strange. I know for a number of priests, it's been a very painful experience. I've only been a priest for a short time, so I'm still, I guess, adjusting to a real sense of normalcy. But for them who've been offering the Mass for years and years with a congregation, it's very strange and very painful for them.
Very good. We have a question from the audience here. Father, they say that we tend to take for granted all of our blessings. What is a blessing that you have realized you took for granted previous to coronavirus?
That no matter what, I will always have access to the Eucharist. Lord willing, please God. In fact, I was reflecting on that today, just a few minutes ago, offering the Mass. And as I held up the Eucharist, I just remember thinking, like, Lord, I am not worthy that you should enter under my roof. How is it that you've called me and allowed me to receive the Eucharist, and so many people cannot? So it's a great, just very grateful for my priesthood. A lot of gratitude. But yeah, perhaps just maybe I took it a little bit for granted, but just really realizing the weight of it now, when so many cannot receive.
So this is your first year as a priest currently, and it's looking like there's the potential that the Triduum masses won't have the people there. Has that come into your mind at all, and how have you thought about that?
Yeah, that was probably it's this time is a real sacrifice that I think myself and other priests can offer up for so many who can't even be in attendance. I mean, I love the Triduum. I love Easter. Holy Week is like the high point of my entire year. So, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who that's a real sacrifice for. So.
What would be a good way to teach young children about loving intentionally and finding your meaning? Specifically, how to make it relevant to this unique time right now where we are adjusting to these new restraints?
Well, that's a good question. Teaching young children to love sacrificially. Well, I think helping them to see that in certain choices or in certain circumstances that they have a choice, right? And to present to them, like, there's a good here, but maybe there's an even better good. For example, there's something, and I think it was very formative for me. When I was a little boy, I don't remember what had happened, but my sister had done something naughty, and and she was in trouble, and she was going to get a spanking. And I was standing there just kind of watching this whole thing play out, and my mom asked me, and I don't know, it's still just kind of seared in my memory. My mom asked me, she said,
We got another question here, Father.
Reading to me, and some of the most important lessons I learned in story format.
Biden with.
My Saint Posse, love it. My Saint Posse is Saint Francis. Yeah. Connor's as well. Yeah. So those are a number of them. I love Saint Joseph. Yeah. Those are. Saint Francis of Assisi is my confirmation saint and my patron saint. He's had a huge impact on my life. So I'd say probably of all the lowercase s saints, I'm sorry, not lowercase s, big S saints, it'd be St. Francis.
Very, very good. Do you have any specific spiritual suggestions for young adults, podcasts, spiritual books, devotions you would recommend for how they can continue to grow in the faith while they're separated from the Mass?
Especially during this time of anxiety and kind of just sort of not sure how things are going to turn out, I would really recommend the works of Father Jacques Philippe, which I'm sure many of you are already familiar with, especially his Searching for and Maintaining Peace. This book changed my life when I was in college seminary, really helped me to see so many of the different ways the devil was dragging me down and beating me on the wrong spiritual battlefield where I was fighting the wrong battle. It's a wonderful book, very small, concise treatise on the peace of the heart. Another book of his is, I'm blanking on it now. It's Freedom, Interior Freedom. That's a fantastic book. Jace loves that book. Can't recommend that book enough, especially, given our circumstances. He talks about this woman during the time when, and I'm going back to the Nazis, when they were taking over and creating ghettos and sort of limiting people's free access. I can't remember her name, but she talked about how she wrote this, these beautiful reflections on how one really, once one has chosen to freely accept the way things are, that sort of freedom can't be taken from you. And so what a great example for us when we really don't have any control over it. We got to stay home. We can't evict our family. I suppose we could. That they'd be very uncharitable, so don't do that. But, but to choose. So, yeah, the writings of Father Jacques Philippe. I love Father Mike Schmitz. He's got great stuff. All sorts of stuff online.
We have another one around the Triduum. How would you recommend a family to celebrate the Triduum and Easter at home during the quarantine?
Well, I think definitely have a cross available on Good Friday. That way you can reverence it as a family during the time when it would be reverenced. Watch the Triduum online. It's obviously not as good as the real deal, but it's the best that we can do. And also believe and trust in your heart, right? This is taking place all over the world. Everyone in similar circumstances, all the believers of the world now coming together to celebrate the rising from the dead of our Lord. There are great spiritual reflections that you can read, written by the saints, just good people from our present day, on the readings for the Triduum. There's so much out there and available. It just takes that intentionality, right? Accessing it. Many ways to enrich our experience.
We have one advice for those who are really suffering from anxiety, hopelessness, and anger at God for the way that the world is right now.
Well, one thing I would say is it's okay to feel what it is that you are feeling, just to affirm you there where you're at. Because until we acknowledge that's reality right now, for better or worse, we can't move past that. So if you're angry at God, frustrated with people around us, despised with the world, then we have to acknowledge that and accept, okay, God, this is where I am. And I'd say take that to Jesus, because that's the stuff that Jesus wants to talk to you about. He's God. He can handle it if you're angry, all right? I'm not saying don't be blasphemous, but he would rather hear, rather than, oh, I love you, Lord, and our Father who art in heaven. I mean, that's fine, but he would rather hear the real mess of what you're going through. That's what I'd say. Take that to the Lord and tell him, I'm really just disappointed, angry.
You only get one thing. What are you taking out of the grocery store?
Is that, just to clarify, do I have any other possessions, or is this just I'm taking that back home?
This is the only thing
that I will have during the Corona apocalypse. Great. It's going to sound really lame, but I'm going to say toilet paper.
Very good. Well, thank you so much, Father John.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Father John, for taking the time to be with young adults tonight. For everybody who's listening, I'll hop on here. The challenge for all of us is that we're isolated right now, and our challenge at our last mass meal and mission was to reach out to somebody who's isolated. Well, guess what? We're all isolated now. So I want to encourage you guys, especially if you have friends who are turning into this stream, who are for the talk and for the mass. Reach out to them. Give each other a phone call, especially the extroverts. I've been making this joke all the time that as us extroverts, we're not okay. So give a call to your friends and be a part of the church in other ways other than being able to be there in person. We'll be continuing to do this every Thursday at 7, Mass followed by a talk. And be on the lookout. We have other things that we're cooking up. We're figuring out a way to have a social from our cars right now and figuring things out. So we've got a lot of wacky ideas of how to get through COVID-19. Thank you guys all for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Thanks. God bless.